The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Its fleets stretched across star systems. Its laws shaped the lives of countless species, and its reputation was unmatched. No world dared resist. No species challenged the Dominion and lived. It was a rule etched into every corner of the known universe. Defiance meant destruction. And yet, on the edge of Dominion space, the monitors blinked with an anomaly of fleet unlike any seen before. Human ships. Slow, cumbersome, barely armed compared to the sleek Dominion warships, yet moving forward with confidence. They did not change course. They did not send a message. They simply advanced, as though they were meant to be here. Admiral Kalen Rith, commander of the Dominion's 7th Fleet, studied the displays. "They cannot be serious," he said, voice tight with disbelief. "No species would dare cross into Dominion space unannounced. This is impossible." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sorave, frowned. "They are human, sir. Sensor readings confirm it. They lack heavy shields, long-range weapons, or any technology matching ours. They should be fleeing." Rith leaned back, gripping the armrest of his command chair. The Dominion had never faced such audacity. Every species, no matter how clever, had shown fear at the thought of Dominion fleets. Every species had learned to obey. But these humans, they were different. The humans-led ship glimmered faintly in Dominion scanners. Its hull was unremarkable. Its design simple. Yet there was a strange precision in the way it moved. It did not follow standard formation. It did not retreat when flanked. It did not send warnings or signals. It simply moved forward, unafraid. Admiral Rith's communicator chimed. A voice crackled through, tense but controlled. "Admiral, the humans are holding formation despite our patrol intercept. They are not responding to any communication attempts." "Then we will respond for them," Rith said sharply. He gestured, and the Dominion warships accelerated, surrounding the human fleet. "Prepare to engage. Show them the consequences of trespassing." On the bridge of the human flagship, Commander Alara Voss stood calmly. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency, adjusting shields and scanning Dominion signals. Unlike the Dominion commanders, she did not feel panic. She did not feel fear. Humans had faced the unknown countless times, and each time they had survived. Each time they had adapted, maintained course, Voss said, voice steady. "They will try to intimidate us. They always do. We do not flinch. We do not run." Her first officer, Lieutenant Ryan Hale, nodded. "Understood, Commander. Sensors indicate Dominion ships are closing in. They expect compliance." "What is our response?" "We respond by being ourselves," Voss replied. "Nothing more. Nothing less." As the Dominion fleet drew closer, their weapons charging with energy. The humans continued their approach, seemingly unconcerned. Dominion tacticians analyzed every maneuver, every course adjustment. Nothing made sense. Humans did not act like any species they had encountered. They did not follow logic the Dominion could understand. Yet their movements were precise, effective, and most importantly, fearless. Rith's eyes narrowed. "Target their lead vessel. Prepare to disable them with concentrated fire," Voss observed the Dominion formations calmly. She did not panic when energy beams erupted in space. Her crew anticipated each strike, adjusting shields and angles in a manner that made it seem as if they were predicting the Dominion's moves. In minutes, what should have been a swift, humiliating destruction turned into a puzzling stalemate, Commander. Hale said, leaning over a console. "They expected us to flinch. They expected panic. They did not expect." This Voss allowed herself a small smile. "No, Lieutenant. They never expect humans to stand steady. That is the difference." Across Dominion Command, panic quietly spread. Fleet officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had faced hundreds of hostile species, many with more advanced technology than humans. But none had exhibited such fearlessness, such absolute calm in the face of overwhelming force. It was a concept they could not calculate. Fearlessness was an unknown variable, one that disrupted every tactic, every simulation, every plan. Admiral Rith's fingers drummed against his chair. "We will escalate," he muttered. "We will show them the consequences of defiance. Prepare full assault. Target the entire fleet." On the human bridge, Voss watched the Dominion ships align for attack. She did not give orders to evade. Instead, she gave one simple instruction: observe, react, adapt. The humans' movements became a dance of ingenuity. Smaller ships darted between larger ones. Shields absorbed impacts in ways the Dominion had not predicted. And at the core, Voss's flagship adjusted its trajectory with subtle maneuvers, keeping the fleet just out of lethal range. Dominion calculations failed at every turn. Rith gritted his teeth. They are not retreating. They are not surrendering. They are enduring. How is this possible? A young officer whispered, almost to himself. They don't fear us. They simply don't fear. That phrase haunted Rith. In all his years, all his campaigns, no species had ever looked into the eyes of the Dominion and refused to blink. Humans did. They advanced, calm and unyielding, as if the might of the Dominion were an ordinary obstacle. Minutes stretched into hours. The Dominion fleet, confident in its overwhelming strength, found itself unable to force a decisive strike. Every move the humans made countered Dominion expectations. Every calculation proved flawed. Finally, Rith's communicator buzzed again. The voice of a senior tactician came through, trembling slightly. "Admiral, the humans. They are not responding with fear. Their fleet is holding steady. They are not retreating. They are adapting." Rith closed his eyes, letting the tension weigh on him. He had ruled the stars for decades. He had faced rebellion, treachery, war, and yet nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing could prepare him for a species that did not flinch, did not panic, did not even hesitate on the human flagship. Voss stood tall, scanning the Dominion fleet. Around her, crew members worked with quiet confidence, adjusting shields, rerouting power, and preparing for any sudden attack. They were ready, not because they feared the Dominion, but because they had trained to survive. "Prepare the boarding protocols," Voss said softly. "We do not attack recklessly, but we do not cower either. Remember, we do not blink." Alay nodded. "Understood, Commander. They will see us as we are humans who will not back down." As night fell across the Dominion-controlled systems, a quiet tension hung in space. The humans did not fire first. They did not threaten. They simply existed, a fleet of resolve moving steadily toward the Dominion heartlands. And for the first time, the Dominion felt uncertain. Rith stared at the human fleet on his monitors. "If we cannot break them," he muttered, voice low, "then what are we? A Dominion that can be crossed without fear? Impossible." But it was happening. The humans continued. They did not blink. They did not falter. And the galaxy watched in stunned silence. As a small species demonstrated courage that even the mightiest empire could not predict, and thus began the first chapter of a story. No Dominion officer would forget. The arrival of humans was not an invasion in the traditional sense. It was something far more profound. A silent challenge. A question to the galaxy: could even the most powerful force truly command respect when faced with a species unafraid of everything it had ever known? For now, the humans advanced, calm, steady, unyielding. The Dominion watched, uncertain. As a new variable entered the aquaceous species that refused to blink, in that refusal lay the beginning of change. The human fleet continued its steady advance. Across the Dominion command, tension rippled through every level. Fleet officers whispered to one another, sharing unease that had no place in their normal calculations. No species, no matter how strong or clever, had ever dared to approach Dominion space with such audacity. And yet the humans did not falter. Admiral Kalen Rith studied the human fleet again, frustrated and perplexed. "If we do not act, they will reach the inner systems. That cannot happen. Prepare the elite strike squad. I want them tested. Every weakness found." Lieutenant Sorave hesitated. Sir, we have scanned them extensively. Every system, every maneuver, every weapon signature. There is nothing we can exploit. They are unpredictable. Rith slammed his fist against the console. Unpredictable or not, they must yield. No species defies the Dominion without consequence. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship, Commander Elara Voss observed the Dominion maneuvers with quiet calculation. Her crew moved with efficiency born of long preparation and rigorous training. "They will test us," she said, voice calm. "Expect everything. Adapt to everything. That is how humans survive." Lieutenant Ryan Hale glanced at the approaching Dominion strike squad. "They are sending their elite warships, Commander. They are the fastest, most heavily armed in the fleet. How do we respond?" Voss did not hesitate. "We respond by doing what we do best. We do not panic. We do not retreat. We act." The first wave of Dominion ships accelerated, forming a wedge aimed directly at the human formation. Energy beams glinted across the void, and the Dominion strike squad opened fire. Smaller human ships darted between the larger vessels, shifting position in ways that made the Dominion tactical computers overheat. "Adjust shields to Sector 9, Voss commanded. "Reroute power to forward emitters. Anticipate their vector changes." Hale's hands moved quickly across the console. "They are predicting our maneuvers before we make them." Voss shook her head slightly. "Not predicting, observing, adapting. Humans do not act out of fear. Fear blinds calculation. Confidence allows it. Keep moving." The Dominion warships fired again, but their attacks fell short. Humans weaved through volleys, shields absorbing damage in patterns no simulation had predicted. Every strike the Dominion made was countered, diverted, or absorbed. In some cases, human ships seemed to anticipate the attack, shifting position as if reading the enemy's mind. Across the Dominion command network, panic began to seep into calculations. Officers muttered about anomalies and improbable outcomes. A young analyst whispered to his colleague, voice tight with disbelief, "They are not afraid? They simply endure everything we throw at them." Admiral Rith's eyes narrowed. "Endurance is not enough. Test their limits further. Launch boarding drones. Deploy magnetic traps. Use everything. Find a weakness." On the human bridge, Voss acknowledged the new threats with calm efficiency. Drones detected. Countermeasures active. Magnetic traps identified. Reroute hull stabilizers. Prepare emergency maneuvers if needed. Hale frowned. "Commander, they are increasing pressure. Our shields are taking a beating." "Are we?" Voss interrupted. "We are human. We do not flinch. We adapt." As the battle unfolded, the humans demonstrated something the Dominion had never seen before: resilience that bordered on instinctive genius. Every attack was met not with fear or panic, but with immediate creative responses. Boarding drones were trapped and rerouted harmlessly. Laser volleys were absorbed, deflected, or redirected. And through it all, the human fleet maintained its steady advance, inch by inch, toward the Dominion heart of operations. Rith's jaw tightened. They cannot be prepared for this. Our simulations, all of them, fail. They leaned close. "Sir, it is more than preparation. They do not fear us. That is why they survive. That is why they fight like this. They are extraordinary." "Ass!" Rith's knuckles whitened on the armrest. "No species can be extraordinary enough to defy the Dominion. There is always a limit. Find it. Break them." The humans' reactions were not based on calculation alone. It was instinct, courage, and a refusal to falter in the face of overwhelming odds. Even when Dominion ships surrounded them, the humans exploited small gaps, found weaknesses in the attacker's formation, and pressed forward without hesitation. Hours into the engagement, a Dominion battleship attempted to corner one of the human vessels near an asteroid field. The Dominion believed the human ship trapped. Their confidence was palpable. "Engage the ship," Rith ordered. "It cannot escape." On the human bridge, Voss studied the asteroid field, a faint smile forming. They expect fear. They expect panic. We do not provide it. Initiate evasive sequence gamma. Hull boosters to maximum. Follow my lead. The human ship slipped between asteroids, weaving in ways that defied conventional tactics. Dominion gunners could not track it. Sensors struggled to calculate its trajectory. And in a sudden burst, the human ship emerged from the other side unharmed, ready to rejoin the fleet. Hale shook his head in disbelief. They can't do that. No ship can navigate that path with such precision. Voss's voice was steady. Humans can. Meanwhile, across Dominion Command, whispers of fear and admiration spread. Officers began to question their assumptions. How could a species so small, so untested, endure everything the Dominion could throw at it? How could they stand unafraid while the galaxy's most powerful empire sought their destruction? Rith clenched his fists. They cannot be allowed to continue. Prepare the superweapon fleet. Target their command ship directly. If they survive this, nothing will stop them. Voss received Dominion signals on the human network. She read them calmly, then turned to her crew. They are escalating. That is expected. Continue our patterns. Adapt. Survive. Humans do not flinch. As the superweapon fleet opened fire, enormous beams of concentrated energy streaked across the void. Shields flared, energy shields hummed, and the human ships rocked under the impact. Yet, through the chaos, the humans maintained discipline. They redistributed power to damaged systems, adjusted shields, and found routes through energy gaps. Every attack that should have destroyed them only demonstrated their adaptability further. Hale exhaled. I've never seen anything like this. They are enduring everything. They are turning survival into an art. Voss's eyes scanned the Dominion fleet, and this is only the beginning. Remember this moment. Remember that humans do not blink. As night fell over the Dominion sectors, the first true realization dawned on the commanders. Humans were unlike any species they had faced. They were clever, adaptable, fearless, and capable of turning impossibility into reality. The Dominion could not break them with technology. They could not break them with fear. The humans' resolve was unshakable. In the quiet after the battle, the human fleet regrouped. No ships were lost. No panic had occurred. Every crew member performed flawlessly, moving as if they had anticipated every Dominion action. They had faced overwhelming odds and had not flinched once. Report, Lieutenant, Voss said. All systems nominal, Commander Hale replied. Damage minimal. Dominion forces. They are shaken. They expected to crush us. They expected us to yield. We did not. Voss nodded. Then we continue. We move forward. Their fear is not ours. Their rules are not ours. We are human, and we do not blink. Across the galaxy, the Dominion struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. For the first time, their control, their power, and their assumed superiority were questioned, not by diplomacy, not by rebellion, but by courage and unshakable resolve. The humans had proven that they could stand against the Empire itself. They had not even hesitated. Admiral Rith stared at the monitors, face pale with disbelief. They survived. Every strike. Every test. How? How is this possible? They answered softly, almost in awe. Because they are humans, sir. And humans do not blink. The fleet continued its advance, calm and unyielding. And in that unwavering march, the humans set the stage for a conflict no one in the galaxy would forget. The Dominion had faced many challenges, but none like this. And the galaxy itself began to wonder, could courage and resolve truly defy an empire? For now, the answer was clear. The humans had endured. They had adapted. They had survived. And through it all, they had not blinked once. The Dominion had never encountered a species like humans. After the failed attack of the elite strike fleet, their confidence was shaken. Never before had a fleet stood against the Dominion and survived every strike. Never before had courage, resilience, and calmness proven stronger than advanced technology and overwhelming firepower. Admiral Alan Rith paced the floor of the command chamber, his hands clenched behind his back as he stared at the monitors showing the human fleet advancing steadily through Dominion-controlled space. "They cannot be ignored," he said finally, his voice low. "They cannot be destroyed. We must try. Diplomacy." Lieutenant Sorave looked uneasy. "Sir, diplomacy with humans? They are unlike any species we have negotiated with. They do not fear us, and they do not respond to intimidation. Then we negotiate from a position of force," Rith replied. "Show them our might, and let them see the choice they have." A delegation of Dominion diplomats, the most senior in the galaxy, was dispatched toward the human fleet. Their message was clear: obey the Dominion, swear allegiance, or face annihilation. They expected fear, obedience, or at least hesitation. On the human flagship, Commander Alara Voss received the communication calmly. She read the demands, the threats, and the ultimatums with her usual quiet focus. They offered diplomacy, Voss said to her first officer, Lieutenant Ryan Hale. Diplomacy backed by threats. That is their standard approach. How do we respond? Hale shrugged. They expect fear. They expect compromise. Do we comply? Voss shook her head. No. We do not bend. We do not yield. Humans speak truth and act with honor. We respond honestly and we do not flinch. When the human response was sent, it was simple. They did not issue threats. They did not promise submission. They stated clearly that they wished for peaceful coexistence, but they would defend themselves against any aggression. It was a calm, direct message, without arrogance or fear. The Dominion diplomats were baffled. Their attempts to intimidate had failed. Their carefully crafted ultimatums had no effect. For the first time, they faced a species that did not recognize their authority. Admiral Rith watched in disbelief. As the human fleet maintained its steady formation, they do not flinch. They do not hesitate. They are. Unwavering, he muttered in the human command room. Voss stood quietly. Her eyes scanned the holographic displays of Dominion warships approaching for a meeting. They will come closer, hoping to intimidate, she said. We remain calm. That is how humans survive. That is how humans win respect. Hal frowned. Respect. From the Dominion. Can they even feel it? Voss smiled faintly. Fear is what they expect. Confidence is what we give. There is a difference. And the difference cannot be ignored. As the Dominion diplomats arrived, they projected an aura of authority and menace. Their voice was firm, their tone commanding. They demanded loyalty, obedience, and recognition of Dominion supremacy. Yet the humans did not shrink. They did not flinch. They did not blink. Commander Voss met the diplomat's gaze directly. We do not seek war, she said. We do not seek subjugation. We exist in this galaxy as we always have, ready to defend ourselves, ready to help others, but never to bow to fear or coercion. The senior Dominion emissary, a tall figure with an imposing presence, studied her. You speak boldly for a species so small. You cannot hope to survive in these sectors without the Dominion's sanction. Do you understand the consequences of your defiance? Voss remained calm. We understand the consequences. We also understand that survival requires courage. We do not flinch. We do not yield. That is who we are, Dominion officers whispered among themselves. This was not negotiation. This was not compromise. This was courage in its purest form. They had expected trembling, pleas, hesitation. Instead, they found calm, unshakable determination. Admiral Rith, observing remotely, felt a knot of unease form in his chest. How? How can a species face us without fear? How can they speak without faltering? Vey spoke quietly beside him. Sir, they are human. Humans have always faced impossible odds and endured. That is why they are extraordinary. The meeting continued, and the humans demonstrated something unexpected: clarity, honesty, and fearlessness. They did not attempt to manipulate or deceive. They did not seek to challenge the Dominion outright. They simply stated their position, steady and true. The Dominion emissaries tried a new tactic, revealing knowledge of a secret Dominion operation, something hidden deep within the Empire. They expected this revelation to intimidate the humans. Commander Voss read the information calmly. "We expected as much," she said softly. "Knowledge does not frighten humans. It informs us. We will act with caution, yes, but not with fear. That is how humans survive." Okay. The diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. No species had responded this way before. Every species had reacted with alarm, submission, or deceit. Humans reacted with calm intelligence and unwavering confidence. Across Dominion space, stories began to spread. Officers whispered to one another about the audacity of humans, their refusal to blink, their unusual courage. Even those loyal to the Empire began to question old assumptions. Perhaps technology and power were not the only measure of strength. Perhaps courage, adaptability, fearlessness mattered more than the Dominion had ever acknowledged. Admiral Rith sighed heavily. "We cannot fight them conventionally. We cannot intimidate them. In diplomacy. Diplomacy fails because they do not fear us." "What do we do next?" Vay spoke softly. "Perhaps we watch, sir. Perhaps we learn that some things, some species cannot be controlled by fear." Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship, Voss reviewed the reports from the meeting. She remained calm, but her mind was active. Humans were not invincible, but their strength lay in their resolve. They could face overwhelming force and survive. They could face intimidation and remain steady. And they could turn challenges into opportunities. Prepare for the next phase. She said to Hale, "They will attempt more tests. They will try to push us toward fear. We respond as humans always have, calmly, intelligently, without faltering." Holly nodded. "Understood, Commander. It is inspiring how they cannot shake us." Voss's eyes scanned the stars. "It is not inspiration, Lieutenant. It is human nature. Courage, adaptability, and calm in the face of danger. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. That is why we do not blink." As the human fleet advanced further into Dominion-controlled sectors, small signs of change began to appear. Some Dominion officers began to doubt the infallibility of their empire. Some began to admire the humans quietly, secretly wishing they could embody the same fearlessness. And some simply feared what would come next. For the humans had proven that courage alone could disrupt centuries of order. The humans continued, calm and steady. They did not provoke unnecessary conflict. They did not seek to dominate or destroy. Yet their presence alone was a challenge. Question posed to the Dominion: could power alone command respect when faced with a species unafraid of everything it had ever known? Commander Voss addressed her crew, her voice soft but firm. "We have passed the first test. They sought to intimidate us, to test our resolve. We endured. We adapted. We survived. Remember this, crew. Humans do not blink, and that is our greatest strength." Hale looked at the fleet, at the steady lights of ships advancing through the darkness of space. "We have made them reconsider, Commander. They cannot believe a species could be this calm, this unyielding." Voss nodded. "Then we continue, calmly, steadily, and without fear. The galaxy will see us as we are, not as they imagine us to be. Humans do not blink." Back on the Dominion command bridge, Admiral Rith stared at the monitors. His expression was unreadable, but inside, a storm of doubt had begun to form. The humans had survived his fleet. They had endured the elite strike squad. And now they had faced his emissaries without faltering. For the first time in history, the Dominion faced a species that could not be broken by force, manipulation, or fear. The humans had proven their courage. They had proven their adaptability. And most importantly, they had proven one simple truth. They did not blink. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the human fleet advanced, calm, steady, unyielding. The Dominion had hoped for fear, hesitation, and compliance. They had found something far more unsettling: humanity itself, resolute and unshakable. The test of resolve had ended. The humans had passed, but the galaxy had only begun to understand what it meant to face a species that refused to blink. The human fleet moved deeper into Dominion-controlled space. Every system they passed, every outpost they approached, brought the same result: surprise and confusion. Dominion forces expected fear, panic, or retreat. Instead, they found humans, acting with calm precision, adapting to every threat with intelligence and courage. Commander Alara Voss observed the star systems ahead. Sensors showed Dominion patrols and fortified positions, yet she did not hesitate. "We advance," she said quietly. "We do not avoid them." Humans do not flinch from a challenge. Lieutenant Ryan Hale nodded. "Our tactics so far have worked, Commander, but they will not let us pass forever. Dominion fleets will respond in full force soon." Voss smiled faintly. "Then we use that." Humans do not wait for threats to end us. Humans shape the battlefield to survive and succeed. The Dominion, realizing that conventional attacks could not stop the humans, began to anticipate a new approach. Fleet commanders debated strategy, some advocating diplomacy, others pushing for overwhelming force. Every move they made was countered in unexpected ways. Humans did not fight like other species. They were unpredictable, yet effective. Meanwhile, Voss devised strategies that relied on human adaptability. Smaller ships moved through patrol gaps, relaying intelligence back to the flagship. Humans repurposed captured technology from minor skirmishes, using Dominion systems against themselves. They avoided unnecessary destruction, yet every action they took weakened Dominion control incrementally. As the human fleet approached a cluster of mining colonies under Dominion rule, Voss made a critical decision. "We liberate these worlds," she said. "Without violence if possible, but with strength if needed. Humans do not oppress. Humans protect." Hale glanced at her. "Commander, this will attract Dominion attention.
Hell.
They will respond with overwhelming force." "Let them come," Voss replied. "Humans do not flinch. We act with purpose, not fear." The mining colonies had been under Dominion control for decades. Labor was strict, resources siphoned away to feed distant systems. Dominion officers believed that fear and obedience would prevent rebellion. Yet, when human ships entered orbit, colony inhabitants observed something unexpected. Humans who did not intimidate, yet radiated strength and protection. Voss and her crew coordinated the safe evacuation of workers, repaired failing systems, and removed the Dominion patrols with minimal confrontation. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, strategy without unnecessary violence, efficiency without arrogance. By the time Dominion reinforcements arrived, the humans had already left, leaving liberated colonies and bewildered officers behind. Back on the Dominion command bridge, Admiral Kalen Rith glared at the reports. "They're moving through our sectors as if we do not exist," he muttered. "They are not only surviving, they are undermining our control." "How is this possible?" Lieutenant Sorave shook her head. "They are humans, sir. Humans adapt. Humans think beyond the limits we set. That is why we cannot predict them. That is why our strategies fail." Rith clenched his fists. "We must escalate. We must force them into a trap, or everything we control is at risk." Prepare the central hub defense. Deploy every available fleet. The humans, however, anticipated the Dominion's response. Using their understanding of patterns, human scouts monitored fleet movements, predicting potential blockades and adjusting their routes accordingly. They avoided traps without hesitation, turning obstacles into opportunities. Every movement was precise, every decision calculated, yet executed with instinctive calm. During one engagement, a human detachment faced a superior Dominion fleet near an uncharted asteroid belt. The Dominion expected easy victory. Their calculations assumed panic, retreat, or error. Instead, the humans maneuvered through the dense asteroid field with skill and speed, using the terrain to neutralize superior firepower. Dominion ships were forced to retreat, their confidence shaken. Commander Hale said, watching the display, "Their fleet was superior in numbers and weapons. It should have overwhelmed us, yet we prevailed." Voss nodded. "We did not merely survive, we adapted." Humans do not flinch when the odds are against them. That is what makes the impossible possible. Word of the humans' success spread quickly. Dominion colonies whispered stories of invincible humans, of courage unmatched, of ingenuity that defied expectations. In some sectors, Dominion officers hesitated, uncertain whether to engage or observe. They could not reconcile technology and power with fearlessness and effectiveness. Voss saw an opportunity. "We inspire allies, Lieutenant," she said. "Every liberated colony, every system we help, these are not just victories. They are seeds. Seeds of respect, of cooperation, of belief that humans do not flinch." Hale looked at her. "Oh, you mean we are changing their view of us even without fighting them directly?" "Exactly," Voss replied.
I was.
"Humans win not by fear or threats, but by courage, ingenuity, and fairness. That is what makes humans extraordinary." As the human fleet moved closer to the Dominion's central hub, tensions reached a new peak. Dominion scientists and strategists analyzed human movements endlessly, seeking patterns, searching for weaknesses. They could not find any. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resilient in ways that made simulation impossible. A Dominion officer whispered, "They are reading our strategies as if they know our thoughts." Rith slammed his fist on the console. "Enough. They cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. Prepare a concentrated attack. Target their command ship directly. Crush them at the source, or everything we built is at risk." Voss, however, anticipated the attack. She had studied Dominion behavior for months. Using her fleet's mobility and intelligence gathering, she guided ships through safe corridors, avoided overwhelming fire, and struck vulnerable points when necessary. Every maneuver was precise. Every decision was deliberate. During a critical moment, the Dominion Super-Weapon fleet aimed directly at the human flagship, hoping to end the campaign once and for all. The humans did not panic. They redistributed power, activated emergency shields, and used asteroid cover in combination with feints to evade the devastating beams. The flagship emerged unscathed, and the fleet maintained formation. Hale exhaled in disbelief. They aimed to destroy us completely. And yet, here we are. Voss's gaze was steady. Humans survive because they do not blink. Humans endure because they adapt. Humans advance because they are unafraid. Back in Dominion Command, officers whispered about the audacity of the humans. Some felt admiration, though few would admit it openly. Some felt fear, a quiet unease that spread quickly through the ranks. For the first time, the Dominion questioned the supremacy of its own empire. Rith's voice was low and harsh. "They have survived every test, every attack. They are reshaping the galaxy, simply by refusing to yield." "How do we respond?" Vey answered softly. "Perhaps the galaxy itself is beginning to understand, sir. Some things, courage, ingenuity, resolve cannot be measured by weapons alone." Voss guided the fleet through the outer sectors, liberating more worlds, avoiding unnecessary conflict, and demonstrating human efficiency and ingenuity. Dominion patrols could not catch them. Their own calculations failed. Every trap set for humans was bypassed. Every tactic employed against them failed, not due to luck, but because humans adapted and acted with intelligence, precision, version. As the fleet paused near a liberated colony, Voss addressed her crew. We have proven that courage and ingenuity can overcome even overwhelming force. We have inspired hope, not fear. We have acted with purpose, not aggression. Remember this. Humans do not blink. Humans endure. Humans adapt. Humans succeed. Hale looked around at the fleet. Commander, they have begun to respect us even, if unwillingly. And fear, they do not inspire it, yet they cannot ignore it. Voss nodded. Exactly, that is the essence of human power. Not the weapons we carry, not the numbers we command, but the courage to face the impossible with clarity, intelligence, and calm. That is why we endure. That is why humans do not blink. Across the galaxy, Dominion forces began to realize a fundamental truth. They had underestimated humans. They had assumed fear and superiority alone could dictate outcomes. They had been wrong. Humans were more than numbers or ships. Humans were courage, ingenuity, and resolve embodied in a species that refused to flinch. The strategic upset was complete. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They had turned Dominion expectations upside down, inspired loyalty in liberated worlds, and created uncertainty in the hearts of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the human fleet advanced, calm, steady, and unyielding. The Dominion had faced a force they could not predict, could not intimidate, and could not easily stop. The humans had proven one undeniable fact: courage, ingenuity, and fearlessness could challenge even the most powerful empire. And the humans did not blink once. The human fleet advanced steadily through Dominion space, calm, precise, and unflinching. Each system they passed was left in quiet astonishment. Worlds that had once bowed under Dominion control now looked to the humans with hope. The Empire's authority, so long unquestioned, was suddenly uncertain. Commander Lyra Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship, scanning the stars ahead. She had expected resistance, but she had not expected to witness the full measure of human impact on the galaxy. Dominion forces were confused, hesitant, and, in some cases, openly in awe. Lieutenant Ryan Hale, observing the fleet movements, shook his head in disbelief. Commander, we have pushed further than anyone imagined. Dominion fleets are retreating in places they never should have. They are reconsidering their approach. Os nodded. They are learning what humans have always known. Courage and resolve cannot be measured by weapons or numbers alone. Humans endure because we adapt, because we face challenges without fear. Humans do not blink. Admiral Kalen Rith, back in Dominion Command, could barely recognize his once mighty fleet. Reports poured in. Patrols avoiding engagement. Colonies siding quietly with the humans. Reinforcements hesitating to fire. Dominion confidence was cracking. They are reshaping everything we built, Rith said, his voice tight with disbelief. We have faced many enemies, but none like this. None have stood against us without fear. None have endured. Lieutenant Sorave looked at him gravely. Sir, they are human. Humans always adapt. Humans always endure. Perhaps we underestimated more than just their fleet. Rith clenched his fists. Prepare to confront them. We must regain control. Send a delegation to negotiate or to intimidate. We cannot allow this to continue. The Dominion delegation approached the human fleet cautiously. They had witnessed the humans' previous victories and endured their calm defiance. The emissaries carried threats, ultimatums, and even veiled promises of reward for compliance. They expected hesitation, perhaps a show of weakness. Commander Voss received the communication as calmly as ever. They come with threats again, she said softly. Prepare our response, Lieutenant. Hale glanced at the display. Commander, they have seen everything. They know our fleet is intact, organized, and capable. They expect fear. What do? Voss's eyes were steady. We do not fear. We do not yield. We speak the truth. We act with honor and resolve. That is how humans lead. That is how humans endure. The human response was measured, simple, and unshakable. They would negotiate peace where possible, but they would not bow to fear. They would defend themselves against aggression, but they would not initiate unnecessary conflict. Humans did not seek dominance. They sought respect, equality, and the ability to survive and thrive on their own terms. The Dominion emissaries were taken aback. They had expected threats to intimidate, displays of power to bend the humans to their will. Instead, they found a species that refused to flinch, refused to yield, refused to blink. RY watched the exchange on the monitor. They are unafraid. Every message, every maneuver, every response, they are steady. They are human, and they do not blink. Vey whispered, almost reverently, "Perhaps this is a lesson for all of us, sir. Some strength cannot be measured in weapons or fleets. Some strength lies in courage, in integrity, in unyielding resolve." Meanwhile, the human fleet moved strategically, liberating oppressed worlds, repairing systems, and offering aid where needed. They inspired loyalty, not fear. Colonies previously under Dominion control began quietly siding with humans. Trusting their leadership, their courage, and their unwavering commitment to fairness, Voss addressed her crew. "We have demonstrated that courage and intelligence can match even overwhelming force. We do not act out of fear, and we do not act recklessly. We act with purpose. That is what makes humans strong. That is why humans endure. That is why humans do not blink." 8. Hale nodded. "Commander, every system we reach is starting to question the Dominion. We have not fired our weapons indiscriminately, yet they fear us in a different way. They respect us." Voss smiled faintly. "Respect is earned, Lieutenant. And humans earn respect not by intimidation, but by standing firm, by acting wisely, by never flinching. That is the power of our species." As the human fleet approached the Dominion central hub, tension across the Empire reached a peak. Dominion officers debated whether to engage, withdraw, or negotiate. Every option carried risk. Every choice was uncertain. Humans had disrupted centuries of control, not through overwhelming force alone, but through courage, strategy, and resilience. Finally, Dominion leaders sent a final delegation to meet the humans. They were unarmed, carrying no threats. Their mission was clear: to negotiate a new balance of power. Voss met them calmly. "We do not seek war," she said. "We do not seek domination. We seek coexistence, fairness, and respect. If you wish to engage peacefully, we welcome it. If you threaten us, we will defend ourselves. But know this: we do not blink, and we do not yield to fear." The Dominion leaders were silent for a long moment. They had expected threats, arrogance, or submission. They found none of these. Instead, they found a species that stood calm, steady, and resolute. For the first time in history, they understood that power alone was not enough to command the galaxy. Admiral Rith, who had once believed in absolute control, spoke quietly. Perhaps we underestimated them. Perhaps we assumed that fear alone could maintain order." Vey nodded. "Humans are more than numbers or weapons. Humans are courage, ingenuity, and resolve. And now, sir, the galaxy must recognize it." Across the liberated systems, colonies celebrated quietly. Dominion soldiers who had once enforced oppressive rules began to question their loyalty. The humans had not conquered them with fire or destruction. They had inspired trust, confidence, and courage. Voss addressed her crew one last time before moving deeper into Dominion space. "Remember, every challenge we face, every obstacle, every threat is an opportunity to demonstrate human resilience. Humans do not blink. Humans endure. Humans thrive." Hale looked at her, awe in his eyes. "Commander, we have changed the galaxy simply by standing firm, by being unafraid." "That is extraordinary." Voss nodded. "It is human nature. That is why we are unique. That is why we survive. That is why humans do not blink." The Dominion Empire, once unchallenged, had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans had crossed them, faced their might without hesitation, and emerged unshaken. They had demonstrated that courage, adaptability, and unwavering resolve could match even the most powerful technology and force. And as the human fleet moved steadily onward, calm and confident, the galaxy recognized a new truth: no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could command respect through fear alone. True strength lay in courage, intelligence, and the refusal to flinch in the face of impossibility. The Dominion, changed forever, began to negotiate with the humans on equal terms. They acknowledged the lessons the humans had taught, not through threat or violence, but through steady resolve, fairness, and courage. Humans had forced a balance of power, not through destruction, but through unyielding presence. Voss watched the stars, her crew bustling around her, each member alert and ready, yet calm. "We have not only survived," she said softly. "We have endured, inspired, and changed the galaxy. That is what humans do. That is why humans do not blink." Hell smiled. "And the galaxy will never forget it, Commander." Voss nodded. "No, Lieutenant. And they should not. Courage, intelligence, and calm in the face of danger are what define humanity. And humanity does not blink." As the stars stretched endlessly before them, the human fleet advanced, calm, steady, and unyielding. The Dominion had been crossed by humans, and they had not blinked once. And in that steadfastness, a new era began. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible. A small species had faced the mightiest empire, not with panic or fear, not with reckless fury, but with courage, ingenuity, and unwavering resolve. Humans had changed the rules of engagement forever. Humans had proven that even the most powerful forces could be challenged through determination, adaptability, and bravery. And as the light of distant stars shone on the calm human fleet, one truth was clear to all who observed: humans endure, humans inspire, humans thrive, and humans do not blink.